Have you ever jolted awake at 2 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, feeling that familiar, urgent pressure? You drag yourself out of a warm bed, carefully navigating the dark hallway so you do not wake your spouse, only to return and toss and turn for another hour. If this cycle repeats 2, 3, or even 4 times a night, I know exactly how exhausting and isolating it feels. You might be thinking that this is just a normal part of getting older, a mandatory tax we pay for living past our 50s. For years, the medical community and society in general has conditioned us to accept this fragmented sleep as an inevitable reality. But what if I told you that the mainstream narrative is fundamentally flawed? What if the constant nighttime bathroom trips are not a sign that your bladder is failing, but rather a desperate signal from your body that your daily hydration strategy is completely upside down? I want to share a story about Arthur, a 68-year-old retired architect living in Michigan. Arthur was convinced his prostate was entirely to blame for his sleepless nights. He felt a deep sense of dread every evening as the sun went down, knowing he was about to face another exhausting battle with his own body. He tried restricting his water intake entirely after dinner, yet he still woke up 3 times a night. He was constantly fatigued, his morning brain fog was severely impacting his retirement plans, and he lived in constant fear of losing his independence. He felt completely powerless. Does Arthur's struggle sound familiar to you? You are not alone in this fight, and more importantly, it is not your fault. The conventional advice of simply drinking 8 glasses of water a day is causing immense harm to millions of older adults. It lacks context, timing, and an understanding of how our physiological mechanisms shift as we age. We are going to change that narrative today. If you want to reclaim your nights, wake up feeling genuinely rested, and protect your independence, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up. By sharing this video and leaving a comment below about how many times you wake up each night, you are helping us build a community of support and awareness. We are in this together. Let us dive into the actual science. Researchers at the Mayo Clinic and the Cleveland Clinic have extensively studied how the aging body processes fluids. As we cross into our 50s and 60s, our brain gradually decreases the production of a crucial hormone called antidiuretic hormone during the night. In our younger years, this hormone actively signals the kidneys to slow down urine production while we sleep. Without a sufficient amount of it, your kidneys continue to filter blood and fill your bladder at a daytime pace, even when you are fast asleep. This is a physiological reality. However, knowing this is the key to your freedom. It means we cannot hydrate the same way a 30-year-old does. We have to adapt our habits to support our body's new biological rhythm. The solution is not to stop drinking water, which leads to dangerous dehydration, but to master the precise timing and mineral balance of your intake. Let us talk about a massive misconception that I personally fell victim to earlier in my career. For a long time, I advised people to simply stop drinking water after dinner. It seemed logical. If you do not put water in, water will not come out. But I watched patients like David, a 65-year-old former pilot from Texas, try this method and fail miserably. David was incredibly disciplined. He stopped drinking any fluids at exactly 6 o'clock in the evening. Yet, he was still waking up at 1 and 4 in the morning, dragging himself to the bathroom, completely exhausted. He felt defeated, thinking his bladder was just beyond repair. Watching David struggle made me realize that my generic advice was profoundly flawed. I had failed to consider the complex mechanism of cellular hydration. This is the turning point where we have to look at the groundbreaking work from researchers at Oxford University and Johns Hopkins Medicine. They revealed a fascinating physiological truth about how our bodies process liquids. Hydration is not merely about the volume of water you swallow. It is entirely about how much of that water actually makes it inside your cells. If you are drinking plain, highly purified or distilled water all day long, that water lacks the essential minerals needed to be absorbed. Because it cannot enter your cells effectively, it stays in your bloodstream. Your kidneys, sensing this excess fluid in the blood, immediately go into overdrive to filter it out. So you end up urinating constantly throughout the day and disastrously throughout the night, even if you stop drinking hours before bed. The reality is that you are not effectively hydrating. You are simply flushing water through your system. David was drinking gallons of plain water during the morning and afternoon, hoping to get his daily intake done early. But without the right mineral balance, his kidneys were working overtime all night long to process the backlog of unabsorbed fluid. The secret we discovered to fix the condition of David was incredibly simple, but went against everything he had been taught. We had to change the structure of the water he was drinking. By adding just a tiny pinch of natural, mineral-rich salt, like Celtic sea salt or Himalayan pink salt, to his morning water, we completely changed how his body absorbed the fluid. The natural sodium and trace minerals act like a key, unlocking the cells and allowing the water to be absorbed deeply rather than just passing through the kidneys. This means his body actually utilized the water during the active daytime hours. When we paired this cellular hydration technique with a strict 2-hour evening cutoff, meaning absolutely zero fluids 2 hours before his head hit the pillow, the transformation was incredible. David went from waking up 3 times a night to sleeping a solid 7 hours uninterrupted. He regained his energy, his mental sharpness returned, and the anxiety of the impending night vanished. This approach supports your biological rhythm instead of fighting it. But mastering the fluid intake is only the first piece of this puzzle. There is an entirely different, hidden factor in your evening routine that is secretly signaling your kidneys to produce urine while you sleep, and it has absolutely nothing to do with what you are drinking. Think about what happens to your body physically when you finally lie down in bed at the end of a long day. Throughout your waking hours, gravity constantly pulls fluids down into your legs, ankles, and feet. You might not even notice it, perhaps just a slight tightness in your socks, but as we age past 50, our circulatory system naturally becomes slightly less efficient. This leads to mild, often invisible fluid retention in our lower extremities. To understand how crucial this is, I want to introduce you to Evelyn, a 72-year-old retired teacher living in London. Evelyn was doing absolutely everything right regarding her water intake. She strictly followed the 2-hour hydration cutoff rule, and she properly mineralized her morning water. Yet, she was incredibly frustrated because she was still waking up at least twice a night to use the bathroom. She felt like her body was betraying her. When we closely analyzed her daily routine, we uncovered the silent culprit that was ruining her sleep. Evelyn spent her evenings sitting upright in her comfortable armchair, watching her favorite programs until 10 o'clock, and then she would walk straight to her bedroom and lie down flat. Here is the fascinating biological mechanism that European sleep clinics are now focusing on. When Evelyn finally lay flat in her bed, all that fluid that had quietly accumulated in her legs during the day was suddenly perfectly level with her kidneys. Her kidneys, doing exactly what they are biologically designed to do, sensed this massive, sudden rush of returning fluid into the bloodstream and immediately began working overtime to filter it out. Even though her stomach was completely empty of recently consumed water, her own body was flooding her kidneys from the inside out. This physiological process is known as gravity-induced fluid shifting, and it is a massive unspoken reason why you feel that urgent pressure in your bladder just a few hours after falling asleep. The strategy we implemented to support Evelyn was incredibly simple, required 0 medical prescriptions, and cost absolutely nothing. It is a mechanical approach to a mechanical biological process. I call it the late afternoon elevation technique. We had Evelyn lie flat on her sofa with her legs propped up on 3 thick pillows for exactly 45 minutes every afternoon, right around 4 o'clock. By intentionally elevating her legs above the level of her heart while she was still awake and active, we allowed gravity to gently bring that trapped fluid back into her central circulation. Her kidneys safely processed this shifted fluid during the late afternoon hours, allowing her to peacefully empty her bladder long before her evening wind-down routine even began. The shift in her quality of life was profound. Within just 1 week of practicing this afternoon elevation habit, Evelyn slept through the entire night for the first time in almost a decade. She reached out to me, expressing how waking up fully rested and clear-headed felt like a true blessing. She had reclaimed her mornings and her independence simply by understanding how gravity and circulation were manipulating her nighttime biology. However, managing gravity is only half of the evening equation. There is a specific, highly common ingredient hiding in almost every American and European dinner that acts as a powerful silent diuretic, forcing your kidneys to stay awake and filter long after you have gone to sleep. And the most shocking part is that modern food marketing often labels this ingredient as perfectly healthy. You sit down for a comforting, warm dinner. Maybe it is a bowl of soup, a slice of artisan bread, or a beautifully marinated chicken breast. You feel good because you are avoiding heavy fast food and making seemingly healthy choices. But what you cannot see is the microscopic crystal wreaking absolute havoc on your urinary system. I am talking about hidden sodium. According to extensive research published by the American Heart Association and clinical trials from the European Association of Urology, the average older adult consumes nearly 70% of their daily sodium intake during their evening meal. When you consume high levels of sodium right before bed, your blood becomes chemically unbalanced and too salty. Your brain detects this imbalance instantly and commands your kidneys to pull water from your surrounding cellular tissues to dilute and flush out that excess salt. Where does all that extracted fluid eventually end up? It goes straight down into your bladder. This means your kidneys are functioning at maximum daytime capacity while you are desperately trying to sleep. Let us look at Michael, a 74-year-old retired history professor from Boston. Michael was incredibly diligent. He strictly followed the 2-hour hydration cutoff and religiously elevated his legs every single afternoon. Yet he was still waking up at least 3 times a night to use the bathroom. He felt completely defeated and exhausted, believing his prostate was simply beyond repair. When we carefully analyzed his evening routine, Michael proudly explained that he ate a very light dinner consisting of a bowl of commercial vegetable soup and a slice of toasted whole wheat bread. Here is the devastating truth that shocked him. That seemingly healthy light meal contained over 1,600 milligrams of hidden sodium. Even though Michael had not taken a single sip of liquid since 6 o'clock in the evening, that massive sodium load forced his kidneys to aggressively extract water from his own cellular tissue just to flush the salt out of his bloodstream. His bladder was filling up rapidly in the middle of the night, not from a glass of water, but from a bowl of soup. The strategy to fix this is a concept I call the low sodium sunset protocol. The goal is not to eliminate salt entirely from your life, because sodium is an essential electrolyte required for your brain and muscles to function properly. The absolute secret is shifting the timing. We had Michael move his saltier, heavier meals to breakfast and lunch. For dinner, he focused entirely on fresh, unprocessed foods rich in natural potassium, like roasted vegetables and plain grilled chicken, completely avoiding canned goods, pre-made sauces, and preserved meats. Potassium is vital here because it actively helps to naturally relax the bladder walls. Within just 10 days of making this single dietary shift, Michael experienced something he called a miracle. He went from 3 exhausting bathroom trips down to absolutely 0. He finally experienced the profound blessing of deep, restorative, rapid eye movement sleep. He reached out to me in tears, saying he woke up feeling 20 years younger, with his morning brain fog completely lifted and his independence fully restored. However, even if you master your hydration timing, perfectly manage gravity with afternoon leg elevation, and completely control your evening sodium intake, you might still find yourself waking up at 2 in the morning. There is one final, deeply hidden neurological trap. It is a behavioral habit that has literally trained your brain to feel a false, overwhelming sense of urgency at the exact same time every single night. Breaking this psychological loop is the ultimate key to reclaiming your nights forever. Let us talk about the final, invisible enemy of your sleep, which is your own perfectly trained brain. I want to introduce you to Sarah, a 60-year-old retired librarian from Seattle. Sarah had diligently applied every single biological strategy we have discussed. She mineralized her morning water. She strictly followed the 2-hour evening cutoff. She elevated her legs every afternoon, and she completely eliminated hidden sodium from her dinners. Physically, her kidneys and bladder were functioning flawlessly. Yet every single night, at exactly 2:15 in the morning, her eyes would snap open. She felt a slight urge, got up, walked to the brightly lit bathroom, and then spent an hour trying to get back to sleep. She was frustrated and confused, thinking her body was permanently broken. What Sarah was experiencing was not a urological problem. It was a deeply ingrained neurological trap known as classical conditioning. For years, her body had a genuine physical need to wake up because of her old, incorrect hydration habits. Over time, her brain memorized this exact schedule. Her internal clock created a false alarm at 2:15 in the morning, completely out of habit. And the biggest mistake she was making, the one thing that locked this destructive habit into place, was turning on the bright overhead bathroom light. According to sleep scientists at Stanford University, exposing your eyes to bright artificial light in the middle of the night instantly halts the production of melatonin, which is your primary sleep hormone. Your brain receives a sudden signal that the sun is rising, forcing your entire nervous system into daytime wakefulness mode. When you do this night after night, you physically hardwire your brain to wake up and stay awake. The solution for Sarah, and for you if you find yourself waking up at the exact same time every night out of pure habit, is a two-step behavioral reset. First, we implemented the 5-minute pause. When Sarah woke up at 2:15, instead of immediately throwing off the covers, she was instructed to lie perfectly still for 5 minutes and focus on deep, slow breathing. Often, the false neurological urge simply fades away when you do not act on it instantly. Second, we established the absolute darkness rule. If she genuinely had to use the restroom after 5 minutes, she used a dim amber-colored nightlight strategically placed near the floor. Amber light does not disrupt melatonin production and keeps your brain in a state of rest. Within 3 weeks of breaking this neurological loop, Sarah finally slept through the entire night. She completely broke the cycle. She reached out to tell me that for the first time in over a decade, she woke up to the sound of birds singing instead of staring at a dark ceiling in absolute frustration. She had fully reclaimed her golden years and her independence. You have the exact same power. You do not have to accept exhaustion and nighttime bathroom trips as a normal part of aging. By shifting your hydration to the morning with trace minerals, elevating your legs in the afternoon to gracefully manage gravity, keeping your evening meals low in hidden sodium, and breaking the neurological waking habit with the darkness rule, you are working in perfect harmony with your body instead of fighting it. You are stepping away from the endless cycle of generic medical advice and taking true control of your health. Thank you for allowing me to share these deeply personal and scientific insights with you today. Your body is incredibly resilient, and with the right habits, a full night of deep, restorative sleep is absolutely within your reach. Sleep well, and I will see you in the next video.